Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. So I just want to talk a little bit about red pill and Islam. Seems to be becoming more like a fad, or they're trying to mingle both together on it. So it's a good video. Three Muslims Nico speaking about it. So yeah, let's listen and let's get some feedback.
I think at the same time, you talked about how you went through the red pill journey too. I think men need to have a reference point to understand to not do it anymore. I agree that it's the truth, but pretty much all men are still going, because we're imperfect, we sin. We are going to act on these urges regardless, be out of curiosity or out of ego or reaction, or just because it's out there. A lot of guys need to just get it out of their system.
I don't know. I quite believe that on it. It's just like we're going to regardless on there. It just keeps too much of a nihilistic point of view. Um, there's such a thing called discipline. Not everybody's going to give in to all urges. Because you're a man doesn't mean you're automatically going to do it. But let's just continue.
In order to fully obey. Is that, do you think that's true? Or even as I'm saying it, I'm starting to disagree with that. I have to defend red pill, and I do agree with pretty much everything you said, but I have to defend red pill because you have to understand it's for a lot of guys in the West, it's just the best solution to a problem. You're right. It's a reaction to feminism. It's a reaction to this girl boss mentality, and it gives men a way to navigate through a society that is against them, that's actively trying to make them weaker. Islam fixes that because men are told to, and Muhammad's a G, like Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was a businessman. He was a political leader. He was a really strong man, and Islam values it and respects masculinity. There's no toxic masculinity. It's not ashamed. You're supposed to be strong. There's a lot of things like you can't wear, like you.
But I think they respect him more because he was a prophet of Allah. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was respected because he was chosen by Allah to give out his message, for him to be his prophet and to guide us. I think that's where the biggest point of why he is respected so much. Just like Jesus, just like Moses, just like David, just like Abraham. The respect, yes, they were good men. Obviously, they were honorable men, but the respect because of who he was as a chosen prophet of God. I think that's the majority of the point where the respect comes from.
You can't have a small little, you can't swear any, right? I'm not trying not to swear, but you can't have a pussy little dog, a little squirky chihuahua, because that's haram. That's a waste of time. It's like an object of beauty. Am I correct? You're supposed to have like a big guard dog.
Yeah, if you do have a dog, it has to have a purpose, like being a guard dog. Yeah.
Right. I used to wear a gold chain, but wearing gold is it's.
There we go.
It's haram. It's haram. I wanted to say it was gay, but that's why, because you're wearing. I'm trying to change my terminology.
Well, here's the thing. You're saying it's gay, but I'm not gonna say it's because it's gay, but the basis is because it's imitation of women, bro.
Gay.
That's why it's haram.
Fun fact: Christian, same way. It's just not preached. It's not taught anymore. But they even said the way to look at what a spoiled woman in Christmas is the word gold on it. So just that adorning yourself with gold, even in a Christian belief, is actually also haram. It's just not preached.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. So I took off the gold chain because you're not supposed to wear. Do I have to take off the watch too?
No, not that I know of. It's not gold, right?
No.
No, you should be good. Let me double check for you. Let me ask my teacher and double check, but I'm pretty sure you should be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk to Shooter, bro. When we traveled to Dubai and hung out with Shooter, he had sold all of his gold watches, bro, and he was showing us his collection and how it's all silver now. And I was like, Allah Mubarak, bro. He made that big step.
I wore a gold chain every single day for about 8 years, and just when I heard that, took it off. No, I don't care. I don't care. Gold, I look good. Gold looks good, but I don't want to. I want to stay consistent with it. But yeah, to defend red pill, it gives men a way out. It gives them something to follow. Especially like think about it. Like imagine like the average incel, the average guy confused, like how I was at that time. Like when you're around all this wokeness, what's an easier immediate solution? Is it Islam or is it red pill? Or
I would say Islam. But the problem is Islam, it harps on accountability on yourself. And regardless of where you're at in any space, on accountability is the kryptonite for everything. So, especially Islam, and the Quran even states that the first ones who will taste hellfire will be the Muslims, because they know the truth and they still acted, against it. So accountability is a huge factor of why people will choose something easier. It just says make a lot of money and sleep with a lot of women. Yeah, the pleasures of the flesh obviously is more appealing than being accountable, respectful, and following the rules of Allah.
or is it something that gives you, more like red pill will give you more confidence? Like once you realize how to talk to women, when you get over that hump of being like angry that you can't talk to them, it gives you a way to not to see through the programming and not let you become weaker because they're telling you to become weaker. It does fix a lot of immediate problems, and at the same time, like in social situations, for example, like I went on a big business trip around Europe. Everybody's drinking, and then people will look at you in a certain. That's stupid. Yeah, it's stupid to justify drinking that way.
Yeah, again, everything you're saying is justification because you care more about what other people think, and the only one you should be caring about is what Allah thinks of you, what Allah has guided you to do. Even the Quran states on it that you should not care, or your focus should not be on pleasuring others. You should only pleasure the one through God Allah.
But you got to understand why people gravitate towards the red pill immediately.
I wish I was here, man. Subhanallah.
Yeah, it would have been nice, man. Inshallah, we'll do in person one day, all three of us, or all four of us. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I do agree, right? I'm not saying red pill is completely bad. I'm just saying that since there are aspects of it you can find in Islam, at the point of kind of diversion, someone should choose Islam. But I feel you 100%. We don't have Muslims going and propagating this idea of masculinity in the way that red pill people do. I think obviously they do take it to an extreme because this is something that's man-made and it's going to have flaws. But I went down that path as well. I tried to get married once. Yeah. You think I'm too young at 22? I tried to get married at 18, right? So I was close to it in my own head. And it flopped. It didn't work out. And that broke my heart. I was what red people would call some blue-pilled guy, and I thought everything was sunshine and rainbows and women were immaculate and like all that stuff. Yeah. And then I did fall for the kind of red pill stuff. It tells you very basic things: work out, get your money up, be a good man, get lots of women, blah, 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 through being dominant and top tier and high level and high value. And then it starts pushing you in somewhat of a weird direction. Kind of a, to be honest, disrespect towards women, degeneracy in yourself and of women as well. Because think about it like this. There's a clear contradiction just on the basic level of red pill. You think women should not be sleeping around with random men because that's degenerate. But at the same time, a high value man can sleep around with many different women, or can sleep around with many different people. They're not sleeping with other men, they're sleeping with other women, which means for you to be a high value man that's exercising his high valueness by being with women, you need women that are also going to be degenerate. So even if you yourself don't think men sleeping around is degenerate, you're definitely creating the women that are. You're definitely using the women that are. So that's like me saying, alcohol is horrible while I'm sitting here drinking it.
Yeah, it just leads to, and that's one of the biggest problems. It just leads to degeneracy. All it is, it's switching the double standards. So whatever when women or feminists are doing, no, men should do. That's all the red pill is. The men should be doing that instead of the women on there. And he brought up an amazing point. The women that the red pill women calls 3 or 4s, they hate, they don't like on it. They also believe, oh, you should be creating them because you're exercising your high value self. And that's why most people, there's some that are going to red pill, but most of them will not because Islam, the Quran, Allah states, no, that's fornication. You're not doing that. You're supposed to marry one. If you were to marry more than one, and there's a whole bunch of rules about it as well. It's not like, hey, go marry 4. No, there's stipulations about it, and if you read the Quran, it states that women are put on a much higher value because who they are. You know, they have divinity in their, I call it divinity in their uterus, the creation life. You know, they're special. They should be protected at all costs. And as Muslims, as men, we are there to protect them, not to use them.
Say, okay, cool, but Yani, you're either exposing a contradiction in your belief, or you're just showing that you're a hypocrite. To be frank.
And then on
So
top of that, they have this myth of the beta male provider, bro. What the hell is that? Because in Islam, Allah tells us that we must provide and protect for our women. Now, I'm not saying you got to provide for just any girl that gives you attention now, but your wife, bro, that's earned that level of devotion and loyalty and commitment from you, bro. You're not gonna provide for her because you don't want to seem like a simp. How does that make any sense, bro? And it just red pill comes from a stem of insecurity. At the end of the day, you're masking one insecurity with another.
yeah, we are meant to be the providers of our families, you know? And it's up to us men then to choose the right woman and to not just shoot her by the good looks. I fell for that as well. I mean, how about you choose a woman by not just her values, her spiritual values, you know, her family. Go talk to her family. What does she believe in? Talk to her father. You know, if you can't, if all those things just are not available to you, then you're not just, you don't sleep with her and then go on. No, you move on to somebody else on it. You're supposed to ask Allah, hey, I want the perfect partner you have for me on it, and He will guide you and give you that.
Genuinely getting on self-improvement and trying to put truth in your life as like the cornerstone is going to lead you to Islam, bro. It's not going to lead you into red pill.
And in a sense, I see it as just the red pill is just there's an echo, but I see it as a just representation of realizing the truth. It doesn't have to be one thing encompassing, but it's a reaction to feminism because feminism is a lie. It's a reaction to the programming because the programming was not made in our best interest. It was made to keep us as slaves.
Yeah, and it's a reaction, and people are using Islam as a reaction to the reaction, you know, instead of just being the truth. And I think that's what's happening. You know, I mean, I'm glad Sneeko converted to Islam. I'm glad Tate converted to Islam. You know, and I pray that conversion are just true, and then Allah actually guides them to His path.
It doesn't have to. There's an echo on.
Yo, Rami, there's an echo.
This camera messed up.
He's muted.
I think he's back now.
Is that better? Or?
Yeah, I think we're good now. We got a $20 donut from Nacho Swati. He said, my family is Christian. I'll be converting to Islam. This changed the way I looked at life. Learning a lot. Thank you, my brothers. Getting better every day. Thanks a lot, man.
May Allah bless you and guide your family as well. I think that's one of the things about Islam. It's like in life, perspective is everything, right? I always use this example, so I'll say it again. You know, I'm going to start with a story, and it's going to sound bad, but let me give the context. So one day I was at Walmart with my wife, and there was an old lady who was in the middle of the doorway and who wouldn't move, so I pushed her, right? That sounds bad, but it's the truth. What I really mean is she was in one of those little like electric scooters, and the wheel got stuck in the concrete because there's a pothole. So I pushed the scooter because she was in the middle of the doorway and wanted to help her go. So the first version is true, but the second version, you have more context. You have a new perspective on it. Islam gives you that new perspective. Islam lets you know, listen, and actually it's summarized beautifully with the verse in the Quran. Have you seen the one who takes his own desires as his God? What does this mean? It means that God is the one who we are supposed to obey in every regard in life. As soon as you obey something other than God, you started to worship that thing. If you listen to your mom and dad for every single thing that they tell you to do, you basically worship them. If you listen to the government for every little thing they tell you to do, you basically worship them. If you listen to your own sexual reproductive system and your hunger and all these things that drive you, okay, then you worship your own desires, and you're no better in the words of the cousin of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Basically, you're like the animals, because they do the same exact thing. They feel something, they act on it. Are you going to be on the same level as a dog, that they feel something and they go and do it? Or are you going to use the rationality, intellect that God gave you and the guidance He gave you to decipher what's good and what's bad?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest gripe that I've had about red pill, and it's just the same conversations over and over again. It's just all about, you know, who can, you know, fulfill their desires first. That seems what it be, you know. Oh, get your, you know, level yourself up so then you are the one fulfilling your desires before anybody else. You know, you're the one that's sleeping with, you know, a women before they become 3 or 4. You're creating the 3 or 4. You're the one, you got there first, and that's not Allah's path forward. That's not what He wanted for us.
It's almost subhuman, and I love the point that Brother Rami brought up in the beginning, where it's like you're sleeping around with a bunch of women that are degenerate that you deem not wifeable, not wife worthy, right? They're just 304s or whatever. And then you have other girls that you categorize as a wife. But in the process of dealing with women in the former manner, you're creating more women that are not wifey. So I love that point because you're left with a society that you yourself are basically deeming as degenerate, but you are causing that. So it's not a solution. It's not solution oriented. It's reactionary.
Yeah, you're
And
creating the
there's many
problem.
benefits in red pill. I'm going to say this like first and foremost,
Instead of being
we
the
all know
change,
this.
you're
Just like
becoming the
there's many
problem.
benefits in many other ways of life, but it doesn't mean it's going to be over encompassing as the whole truth. And the problem with these things is many human beings lack the mental faculties to draw the line between what is too far because red pill generally goes into one extreme of MGTOW. And then you got all these people that are just sleeping with blow up dolls. And we know through Islam that clearly Allah tells us that we as human beings don't have the full picture. So instead of leaving mankind to kind of figure things out in man made ideologies that, yeah, sometimes there's good, but then there's bad. And then they all say, oh, take the bad with the good or take the good with the bad. Islam is all good. So why not just submit to something that can't do you any wrong?
Yeah, I mean, what's better? Submitting yourself to the one that created you and everything, that knows what's best for you and wants what's best for you, or submit yourself to an ideology that not just changes, but just keeps on saying you that no, double standards are okay and just wants you to live a life of degeneracy. Because you're going to submit yourself to something, you're going to worship something. You know, why not just worship, submit yourself to the will or the one creator who not just knows you, knows everything about you, knows every hair on your head, and what's the best for you, the best life for you, the best outcome for you, or an ideology just says, disregard everything, and just try to be the first one to fulfill your desires.
That's a great point. But I think at the same time that a lot of men need to, and you talked about how you went through the red pill journey too. I think men need to have a reference point to understand to not do it anymore. Like we could say this, and
Mm.
I agree that it's the truth, but pretty much all men are still going because we're imperfect. We sin. We are going to act on these urges regardless, out of curiosity.
Not regardless, not everybody is just going to do it. You know, some may see the truth before they start living that life. So I don't doubt that everybody's just going to do it. They're just not going to. No, that's completely false.
Or out of ego or reaction, or just because it's out there. A lot of guys need to just get it out of their system in order to fully obey. Is that do you think that's true? Or even as I'm saying it, I started to disagree with that.
I think Islamically, we know clearly we don't need to just get it out of our system. But I think that as products of Western civilization and society that are already kind of embedded into that and have not been programmed correctly by Islam from the jump, yes, we might need to know the night to know the day. But I do want to know what Rami has to say about that.
Yeah. So firstly, I really appreciate the point you made, and I think it's very important that I mentioned that there's a lot of red pill spokesmen for red pill, and they're great speakers. They make great points, and a lot of young men resonate with them because they've been through what they've been through, and they can relate to them on a lot of many different levels. And I think there's a lack of young Muslim men who are being those role models in the same way, that are doing the same thing red pill community is doing in terms of masculinity and brotherhood, except replacing red pill with Islam. So I see what you're saying with that, and I do agree on that end. But I Islamically, obviously, I don't agree with people needing to get it out of their systems before they convert. I think that's kind of just a scapegoat. Obviously, we want to, right? But Allah says in the Quran, it's possible that you love a thing that's bad for you and that you hate a thing and it's good for you. You don't know, and God knows. So at the end of the day, I think what's really important is, I'll give an example. I spoke to a young man, and he was telling me that he wants to be celibate. He's not super religious. He's not a Muslim, but he was telling me about this. And he said, I just can't exactly get over the fence. And I told him, listen, you have to understand why you're doing it. You can't just be celibate to be celibate, because everything in your body is going to tell you to not be celibate and to go, be with this woman and that woman. You have to understand why. Islam gives you the why. So you don't see it before you accept Islam, because all you see is what I want, my urges. Once you understand Islam, and once you actually even if you don't accept it, even if you at least believe in it in your heart, then you're gonna start to see a lot of these things as bad, anyways. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a man. I have urges. I love women. Alhamdulillah. I think they're beautiful. I actually don't have the urge to go out and sleep with random women in the street. I don't, because my love for God is so much more than my love for doing that. And Islam gives a way out. It says get married. You want to be polygynous? Be polygynous. You get married to all of them and take care of all of them. There's no problem.
Yeah, and I mean, he brought a good point. It's actually really good. The way he stated, you don't have to live a life of degeneracy. It's almost like the born again virgins. It's like, oh, they say, oh, I'm going to get my V card back once I go. You should do a prayer. It's the same way. It's a double standard. If you don't accept that standard for women, you should accept it for yourself. You need to do this. You need to do all these sins before you convert to understand. No, the Quran gives you specifically all the truth in life. So no, you don't need to. You don't need to put your hand on fire to realize that it's hot. You don't need to cut your hand to know you're gonna bleed. So, but that was a good video. Let me know what you guys think about it. Comment below, and see you next time.